How's it going, everyone? Before here, welcome to Heliopolis Radio. Today, we've been fortunate to be joined by Corbie Mitleid. I pronounced it right. I hope I did. And
Perfect.
she's a certified tarot master, an oracle, an author, and also a cancer survivor. So she's had quite the journey in life, and she has been fortunate enough to give her time to come share a bit about herself, what she does, and a bit of her life journey. So, Kobe, without further ado, I hand it over to you. Yeah, tell us about yourself, and we can start there.
All right. Probably. Well, first of all, Mahara, thank you for asking me to be on. I think this is the first time I've been on with a South African uh, host. So you got a gold star right there. I started the whole journey when I was 9. There was a children's book called The Witch Family by Eleanor Estes. And instead of thinking, ooh, that's scary or ha, 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 I thought, okay, great. There's magic in the world. I want to go find it. Fast forward to 1973 when I was a senior in high school. And that was the year Live and Let Die came out with Jane Seymour as the fortune teller. So a local store had the James Bond 007 tarot deck, and I bought it because we were all hippies then. I loved the cards, and I read for friends for 20 years, learning how to keep the information clear, keep my ego out of the way. All of a sudden, in 1993 or so, I could do hands-on healing and talk to people who had passed over with no training. That was when
Mm,
the universe handed me my draft notice and said, "You're working for us." So
mm,
I did it part-time, meanwhile having a very interesting career: actress, author, inspirational speaker, video producer, legal assistant, executive recruiter. But on 9/11, when the towers burned, I turned to my husband and I said, I need to do the psychic work full time. People need to know that there are other answers out there. He said, I believe in you, go do it. Since then, it's been 6 days a week, 14 hours a day. I read about 1,000 people a year. And I say that I get to get up in the morning. I don't have to get up in the morning. That's the biggest gift of all.
um, Sheesh, okay, there's quite a lot in there, and I guess that was gonna maybe move me into the next question. And really, I
Mhm.
felt maybe it was really good to ask you this because it seems that this has been a core component of you, developing your calling and finding out who you are. And so it comes to finding your soul purpose. What does the journey look like from your viewpoint, from your experience? And what process did it look like for you in cultivating and finding your soul's purpose? Whether or not people believe in souls or not, it's just completely irrelevant. But again, for context
No,
sake.
Farah, this is such a huge question. It's like, tell me about the Bible in 2 sentences. What? Um, the way I explain it to people is I don't tell you what your purpose is. You find out your purpose by looking at your passion in life. And it's what I call your sentence of passion, so that it's not who you are or what you do or even how you do it. It's the vapor trail that you leave behind in every encounter, so that when you go skidding into heaven on bald tires and fumes in the tank, and God hands you a cup of tea and says, "So tell me what you did," you kind of
Mhm.
get to go, "I did this. Isn't it neat?" Um, my sentence of passion, your soul purpose, if you will, is in the sentence, cross the bridge from fear to fearlessness and fly. When
Wow.
I can take somebody from point A to point B when they thought they couldn't make it, tap them on their shoulders and say, here are your wings. You don't need a flight plan. Go. I'm living my bliss. But I've done it in some form in every job I've ever had.
Mm.
So that's why it's not your job, it's how you move within the world.
Mm. Wow. That was quite powerful. There was a lot in those words, and
You're
very.
asking.
And so, why is it important that individuals seek, I guess you could say, the etheric blueprint for their purpose in life? Why is it important for you to to maybe look into what your purpose is, your soul's purpose? Why is it a significant matter in someone's life?
Well, people come to me and say, what's my purpose? And I can't tell them because I haven't lived their life.
Mm,
In this absolutely chaotic world, if you don't know what you're here to do, you get caught up as what I call a sheeple, a sheep people. And for instance, that's a very big difficulty right now in the United States with so many people. They are willing to follow people who are in it for themselves,
mm,
not for the world, because they don't have anything within them that says, no, that doesn't make sense.
mm,
When we have a purpose, then getting up every day has possibilities. People who have no purpose, they get depressed, they look for drugs or alcohol, they wander, they are set up to be what I call professional victims because they're
mm,
not in control of their own life. And very often, at least here, women come to me when their children have left or they get divorced or they're in their 60s and they say, what am I supposed to do? Because they've been taught they're not allowed to have a want. They have to take care of boyfriends, husbands, children, parents, families, and everyone else comes before them. When you know what you're here to do, there's an anchor that you have so that you can say, that is not what I'm meant to do. I'm happy to help, but this is what's important to me. And you find that a lot with what you've gone through in life. Interestingly, you talked about being a cancer survivor, and I never say that. And this is why. I didn't fight cancer because what you fight fights back. And
mm,
the whole idea of a survivor, you think they're barely hanging on by teeth and toenails. I call myself a cancer dancer.
mm,
I found out how graceful I could be under pressure. I avoided getting my toes stepped on, and I got off the dance floor in one piece. And that was
mm.
3 times.
Wow.
That's a way of looking at it when people come to me and they are ill, to explain to them how to meet whatever they're dealing with on a more positive level. That, again, part of my passion, cross the bridge from fear to fearlessness. I've lived it so I can teach others.
Mm. Wow. And so you kind of actually really what the I actually wanted to just touch on it. You mentioned engaging, I guess, the journey. I don't want to say battling now I don't know, wording it properly, but I
The cancer
guess
dance,
the
call it the
cancer
cancer
dance.
dance.
Um, how did that impact your spiritual journey? Because when we go through these things, like you mentioned, we all go through personal shifts, regardless of whatever adversity we face. They always kind of align us in certain directions. So I'm just wondering how that whole dance impacted your spiritual development.
Well, for one thing, it radically and totally changed both my body and my marriage.
Mm.
I had breast cancer 3 times. And before, I had literally an hourglass figure. If I don't know if you know Dolly Parton over there, she's a famous American
Yes, yes,
singer.
yes, 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 yes.
Okay,
She has her
I
own talk show,
was.
right? I think
Uh,
so.
I I don't know about that, but she's the one with the massive blonde hair, and she's got
Uh,
the figure like this. Well, I have the same figure. But the third time I had cancer, the doctors said that's gone, and we're taking you from that with all the surgery we're going to have to do to what I call the fat fire plug with permanent side effects. And so I had to change my entire image about who I was. I had just gotten married, didn't know if my husband would stay.
mm,
So the whole thing was scary, but it's where I learned to truly live the examined life. What does that look like? Yes, this thing is happening to me and I don't want it, but I have to deal with it.
mm,
I had to find reasons to be all right with it.
mm,
Then, because I'm who I am, I had to find ways of teaching with it. And then I went on to say, next. Now, why is next important? You don't want to stay stuck in the difficulty. To this day, I meet women who 15 years ago had stomach cancer, and they come and say, "Hi, my name is Mary, and I'm a cancer survivor." They haven't ever moved on beyond that.
Mm.
And I pull a newspaper article from 51 years ago that said that I was the New Jersey Betty Crocker State homemaker in 1973. That's not who I am now. I was a very different person then, and yes, it happened, but I don't talk about it.
Mm.
So I encourage people, it happened to you. I acknowledge that, but who are you now?
Wow. Very
The
powerful.
examined life gives you the gift of a future.
Mhm. Thank you. I know that's not an easy space to talk about, so I appreciate you actually. Uh,
Done it so often. It's just one thing to look. That happened in 2004. My first bout was in 1989 when I was acting in New York. Second in 2000. The major operation and basically messing up my body happened in 2004. It is now 2024. I am 69 this week. This is what it looks like 20 years later. It's doable, it's survivable, and I like who I am now better than who I was then. So, in that sense, the cancer also gave me the gift of realigning how I thought about myself. There are always gifts to find if you're willing to look at it and not have a pity party over it.
Beautiful. Really, that's beautifully said. And I was reading your website and your bio, and I tried to do a bit of snooping around, investigating, and I can tell you're obviously a very free-spirited individual. And it seems that in your life you've always sought to find out what is fulfilling to you, and that's a quite an interesting statement because the word fulfilling is completely different in everyone else's mind. But for you, you've mentioned one of it being able to get out of bed and not feel like it's an effort or it's a stress,
Right.
you're incentivized. But outside of that, what else entails a fulfilling life? Because there are many components to human survival, human experience, so many factors that we have to kind of consider and encounter when we consider our lives complete or meaningful. So what are some other factors, if I could ask?
Sure. Um, in my book, Clean Out Your Life Closet, there is something that is called getting clear on your purpose. For me, that's what the three-legged stool of life is: getting clear on your purpose, getting clear in your relationships, and getting clear with spirit. But there are some questions that you can ask yourself. First is, what has your life been about? Look at your major themes. For instance, if you've always had a roller coaster relationship with money, how
Mm.
has that shaped your idea of prosperity? Does it
Mm.
make you feel you're doomed to a marginal existence? Does it make
Mm.
you want to make money no matter what? Or
Mm.
does it inspire you to live more simply? So the feeling that was lack is now transformed into having enough. So that's an example about figuring out what your life is about.
Mm.
Where does your happiness live? And that's where you relive your happiest moments. You think about the folks you admire and you want to emulate. You figure out what's really good in your life. You look, do you put yourself first? How do you like to gift people? Then I tell you, find comfort. And I'm not talking about potato chips and video games. It's finding solace in the things that bring you balance and joy and stability. For me, it's words. I often joke that words are my drug of choice. I love writing. I love podcasts. So that's where I find my joy. The crisis that changed your life, if you had one. With me, it was the cancer. Some people, it's living through a hurricane. Some people, it's um, they were in a war zone.
Mm.
How do you learn or work best? You learn by seeing, hearing, or doing. Are you a big picture person or more detail oriented? Find
Mm.
out how you like to work best. And then the most important thing is, what do you want to be remembered for? And this is not necessarily saying in the entire world, even if it's just in your group. And for me, I want to inspire people to be more than they thought they could be. And I want them to laugh when they remember how I taught them. If I can do that, I have absolutely lived the best life possible. And I can tell God I had the best time. It's not, gee, I had cancer. It's look at everything I got to do, no matter what.
Wow. And I can definitely very powerful, very powerful. And I know I'm not as good with these words, so sometimes I believe that the silence in the moment means that the depth of what is being conveyed has been understood. And
Yes.
so your book, Clean Out Your Life Closet, what inspired you to write it? And yeah, we'll start with that one.
Okay. A lot of I often say, at least in the United States, I will give $100 cold cash to anybody who can truthfully tell me they have never read a self-help book in their lives. We all get them. We all get them. But the problem is the vast majority say, do everything I tell you and it all gets better. But they haven't lived your life or faced your challenges. When I was researching this book, there was one that said you have to get up 2 hours early every morning to do yoga and avoid food with leptin in it. I'm
Mm,
sorry. If you're a single mom with 2 preschool kids and a job, you are not going to do that. So that book sets you up to say, see, you're going to fail anyway. My book is 4 things that we all deal with: clarity, adaptability, simplicity, and making friends with stress. But I don't tell you, do everything I tell you and it all gets better. It's, here's some of the dumb things that I did. Maybe here's a client story, and here's some suggestions.
mm,
But what I give you at the end of each chapter are what I call the adventure pages. Questions for you to answer, but you can't turn to page 82 and find the answer. You have to look at your own life. For instance, there is a chapter called How Perfect Destroys Good. And here are the questions at the end of it. Where do you beat yourself up most often? Why? Reimagine one of those times with the idea that good can triumph over perfect. What does it look like now? How would your life change if you stopped thinking perfection was the
mm.
only correct response to a project or a situation? That opens people up to appreciate their lives have been useful, teachable. They haven't ever gotten it wrong. It's simply choices. So that by the end of that book, if you do all the chapter questions, that becomes your personal manual. And your best friend, they could have bought the book the same day, they could have answered all the questions the way you did, but because their life is different, it would be a different personal manual for them.
Okay. Wow. And that's a very different approach. You get very few books, and I don't want to use the word self-help because it's very but books that benefit your own personal growth. Very few of them leave you that room of openness to tailor make it to your own life. And I think the fact that you were able to empathize that people's problems are different and that they shouldn't be forced down a certain path, I think people can definitely benefit from reading the book. And so obviously accessing it from South Africa is there's an administrative process. I was going to ask, where can people access it?
If you can go onto Amazon, you can get it on a Kindle. It is an ebook.
It's an
You
ebook. Oh,
can
okay.
also, yes, you can also get it as an audiobook. I'm the person who did the narration because to me, if the person who's writing a non-fiction book has a good voice, they're the ones who should read it to you because they have the passion behind it. So
Mm.
yes, in South Africa, you can still read my book.
Wow. And I guess this one is a bit of a weird question, but I felt like I should ask you
What do I do
because
for a living?
no,
Mafaro, weird is fine.
no. Again, the whole essence of this podcast is, again, it's an open forum. Everyone shares what they do, and I always think that when there's love and care and passion behind what you do, that's more important than anything. Obviously, people have whatever their belief systems and whatever aligns with them. That's perfectly fine. But again, since you're well versed in this field, what is your opinion on the commercialization of psychic phenomena in today's world? We live in an age where I feel everything is excitable. So when younger people pick onto something, for instance, you mentioned you've been developing your ability to read tarot for many, many years. There's been a
Half
process.
a century, Mafaro.
And so what is your opinion when you see perhaps other people, maybe not as, I guess, intuitively clear as to what not only is the profession, but what the art is and how they're going about it, how they're conducting themselves. Just like anything, when you see something become more and more commercial, the authenticity behind it kind of diminishes. People lose appreciation for it. So I was just wondering, how do you view this whole world we're living in? Obviously, technology has made it possible for everyone to learn about anything and do anything. So I guess it's a broad question. I hope I worded it correctly for you.
You did. Well, number one, there are 8 billion people in the world. I can't read them all. And
Mm,
at 69, I'm not going to be around in 30 years. So we need the up and coming intuitives.
mm,
What I call people, whether they're mediums or psychics, whatever, they are intuitives. We all use our intuition.
mm,
Um, my concern is more for people who want to go to an intuitive but don't know how to find a good one.
mm,
And that's why I wrote this one, The Psychic Yellow Brick Road, How to Find the Real Wizards and Avoid the Flying Monkeys. Um, yes, like the Wizard of Oz, because there are many, many, many books for psychic development out there. And I tell people, you can do what I do. I'm not special. We're
mm,
all wired like
mm,
the same house plan.
mm,
But it's like you could want to go to a museum and you love sculpture, but that doesn't mean you want to come home with a block of marble and a chisel and dig in and find a camel. You just don't.
mm,
So this is a book that explains what we can do and what we can't, um, the kinds of questions that will be useful to ask, which aren't, when to just cut and run because this is someone who is a fake or
mm,
who is going to take things from you.
mm,
Um, the book was written because of an incident I saw in Canada many years ago. I used to do the spiritual expositions, and
mm,
this had 250 booths. No
mm,
matter how good a promoter is, they can't check out everybody.
mm,
So my booth was across from what we call the fake gypsies.
mm,
And as a woman was walking down the aisle, the fake gypsy came out, grabbed her arm, said, I will read your palm for 10. You don't need to pay 30 or $40. Dragged her behind the booth. 20 minutes later, we see this woman leaving and she's crying. And
mm,
we all run over to her and we ask what happened. And the fake gypsy had told her that she had a family curse.
mm,
And if she didn't burn 400 specially blessed candles at the Roman Catholic Church,
mm,
and the gypsy said she would bless $1 a candle, very, very cheap, her entire family was going to die in a car accident, and she bought it.
mm,
So that's the thing that you do have to watch out for.
mm,
And that's why this book is written, to keep you safe from those types and to
mm,
find a good intuitive. And I don't care if you never come to me after you've read the book. If you find someone else
mm.
that you're comfortable with and you feel safe, then I did my job.
Wow, that's thank you. Thank you for answering that. And the way you explained it was very genuine. Again, because of our competitive nature as human beings, we never want to sometimes give it to the next person next door. But the fact that, but again, it's very good-hearted of you. It is.
Mufaro, why would I be afraid of the up and comers? They could be really, really good. But I have 50 years of experience, 50 years of life to draw
Mhm.
from. Um, I have a level of confidence that you get after half a
Mhm.
century. I will find certain people want to come to me and others will want to go for them. Again, there's so many people in the world, there's enough for all of us.
And I was going to ask you, do you work with people outside of the US?
Oh, yeah. We're talking on Zoom right now. That's how the vast majority of my international clients work with me. The reason that I am fortunate enough to have an international clientele
Mhm.
is the work that I did with Robert Schwartz in his breakthrough series about pre-birth planning and life between lives.
Mhm.
And so, since those books are worldwide known, and I am listed as one of the four major channels in the book, people
Mhm.
come to me to learn about their soul plan, their sentence of passion, things
Mhm.
like that. So I love it. I love it. It was a real stroke of good fortune to work with Robert.
Wow. And thank you for actually just drawing light. A lot of people may have not understand, and I think they'll have a lot more clarity as to how um, that realm actually works and how it operates. I mean, obviously, there are many more nuances that, for time's sake, we can't go into. It's a whole lecture in of itself. But um, do you have any other means of contact?
Yes, I am all over the internet and I'm very easy to find. My website is corbimitleid.com. There are articles on there. You can find the link to my own short little podcast. It's about 15 minutes every Monday. Um, you can find me on Instagram, Pinterest. I have a YouTube channel where there are guided meditations, interviews, articles for you. Um, you can even work with me on Patreon, which is the platform where I work with people once a month
Mhm.
privately. It's a small group, it's about 15 people, but I'm a facilitator. I don't just lecture. Everybody gets to get their hands in the new skills that we're learning.
And so what type of things would people be, what would a typical course entail? What type of skills would people, I don't want to say look to because everyone has a different experience or something, but what do you typically try help people develop within themselves?
Trust in their own abilities. It's like going to medical school.
Hmm.
You're going to use this, but you're also going to decide, am I using an antibiotic shot versus surgery
Hmm.
versus an x-ray?
Hmm.
So the things that I'm very good at, tarot and oracle cards, past lives, guided meditations. But if I'm not good at something, I know people who are, and I
Hmm.
bring them in to teach. I've had astrologers, energy workers, shamans, people who channel. This month, I'm having Michael channel Shepherd Hoodwin. I have no problem bringing in people who know things I don't because I want to expose my nestlings. I call them nestlings because
Hmm.
my nickname is Mop Feathers, to all the things that are out there in the metaphysical world so they can then choose their own specialty. It's like when you go to university, your first year is full of this thing 101, and you take general courses, and then you say, I want to be a physicist, I want to be a fine arts major, I want to be an actress.
Wow. Corbie, thank you so much for, I don't know uh, if we managed to cover as much as perhaps we could have gone into, but again, it'd always be good to come have you on
Could
the
have been
show.
4 hours, Mafaro. You did a good job of picking what we wanted to look at.
No, I do love those. I do love those. I love the art of conversation, and I genuinely enjoy hearing people's life stories, their journey, and also what, what they've chosen to make out of what life has given them. And you have, I don't know how to word it, but you've done amazing with yourself and the way you've cultivated your
Thank you.
heart and your mind. Uh, it's really, really, really inspiring. And it's also encouraging to me as well, and as being a bit younger now, trying to develop whatever purpose I'm trying to cultivate. It's really meaningful. So I appreciate you giving your time. I truly do. And I hope the listeners, they'll benefit, they'll learn, and maybe reach out to you. South Africa, who knows how the demographic here receive things, but again, I hope that someone will reach out to you and perhaps you'll be able to impact someone else, ultimately enriching your own life. So, wishing you a blessed rest of the weekend and week. And thanks so much. Thanks so much for coming on to the show. I hope you had a good one.
I did. Thank you.
So